On my 31st birthday, I sat alone at a long table meant for 12 inside a fancy Chicago restaurant. The candles on my cake had almost burned down to nothing, their wax pooling at the base like quiet tears. My father hadn't shown up, and neither had the friends his assistant promised would come. The waiters avoided my eyes, pretending not to notice the wheelchair. Just when I was about to leave, the door opened, and a man walked in with a little girl heading straight toward me, as if I'd been waiting for them all along. I kept my eyes fixed on the cake. It was easier than meeting curious glances that slid from my face down to the wheels beneath me. I dressed like my old self, ivory silk blouse, hair in soft waves, pink lipstick, but no amount of effort could hide the truth. 2 years after the accident, I still wasn't walking back into my old life. I'd come tonight because my father's assistant said it would be special. I didn't realize special meant alone in public. Then I heard footsteps. Small ones, light and confident, followed by heavier steps. When I looked up, I saw a tall man with strong arms and a quiet presence. Beside him, a girl of about 7 smiled at me like she'd known me forever. "Are you all alone?" she asked, her voice full of wonder. Her father looked mortified. "Lily," he began, but I interrupted softly. "It's okay." He grinned. "It's my dad's birthday too. Maybe we can share." The man hesitated, then smiled slightly and pulled out a chair for her. "If you don't mind," he said. And just like that, my empty table wasn't empty anymore. The waiter appeared, uncertain. The man, Michael, ordered calmly, 2 slices of cake and 2 lemonades. Lily leaned close. "Did you blow out your candles yet?" I smiled. "I did, but we can light them again." Her excitement was pure, bright. When the candles flickered back to life, she closed her eyes and whispered her wish. Watching her, something warm stirred inside me, a feeling I thought I'd lost. "What did you wish for?" I asked. She shook her head. "Dad says wishes only come true if you keep them secret." Michael smiled faintly. "One of the few rules I follow." His voice held a quiet weight that made me curious. "You don't like rules?" I asked. "Some protect you," he said. "Others trap you." Then Lily pushed our cake slices together. "Now it's one big cake," she said proudly. I laughed softly, freely. Michael watched me for a moment. "Were you expecting someone tonight?" he asked. I nodded. I was. But I guess they had other plans. Our eyes met, not with pity but understanding, and for the first time in years I felt seen. After that night I couldn't stop thinking about them. The quiet strength in Michael's voice, Lily's laughter bright against the dull hum of my usual solitude. The next afternoon I nearly convinced myself to forget it all. Then I heard her voice again replaying in my head, "Maybe we can share." I found myself at the park, the one I used to visit before the accident. The air smelled like popcorn and rain-soaked grass. I spotted them by the lake, Lily tossing crumbs at ducks, Michael crouched beside her. When he looked up and saw me, his surprise melted into something softer. "You came," he said, standing. I said maybe, I answered, smiling faintly. "This is me turning maybe into yes." Lily ran up, waving a paper bag. "Here. You can feed them too." Michael walked beside me as I wheeled closer to the water, matching my pace without making it awkward. "You come here often?" I asked. "Every weekend," he said. "It's our thing." His eyes lingered on Lily, pride and tenderness blending in one look. "Her mom left a while back. It's been just us since." I nodded quietly. "She's lucky to have you." He turned to me. "And you? Do you have kids?" The question startled me. "No, just people who think they know what's best for me." He chuckled softly. "Let me guess, they don't." "Not even close," I said, smiling despite myself. We sat in easy silence, feeding ducks. Then a voice cut through the calm. "Sarah, is that you?" I froze. 2 women from my old charity circles approached, designer sunglasses perched like crowns. Their smiles were sharp. "Didn't expect to see you out," one said. Heat rose in my cheeks. Before I could answer, Michael moved closer, steady, protective. "Let's find a quieter spot," he murmured. We stopped under an old oak, sunlight flickering through the leaves. "You handled that well," I said softly. He shrugged. "People judge what they don't understand." His voice held the weight of someone who'd lived it. "You sound like a man who's been there." "I have," he admitted. "Different reasons. Same feeling." I wanted to know more. He told me he worked construction, raising Lily alone after her mother left. That's been my world, he said simply. I looked at him and felt something stir, a connection made of quiet resilience. When he asked about my accident, I told him the truth. A drunk driver 2 years ago and a father who thought hiding me protected our family's image. His jaw tightened. Then they're not your people, he said. His phone buzzed, sharp and urgent. He turned away, voice tense. I told you not to call me at work. When he hung up, I saw something dark behind his eyes. Everything okay? I asked gently. He forced a smile. Just things I'd rather not talk about. I nodded, but deep down I knew that call had opened a door neither of us was ready to face. Days passed without a word from Michael. I told myself it didn't matter. We'd shared cake and laughter, that was all. But as Chicago's November chill deepened, so did the quiet. Each day I caught myself glancing at my phone, wondering if he'd call, then hating myself for hoping. On the third afternoon I went downtown for coffee, a cafe I used to love before the accident. I was halfway through my latte when I heard his voice behind me. Sarah. I turned, pulse quickening. He stood there, rein on his shoulders, looking tired but still impossibly steady. Relief flooded me, until I noticed the woman waiting outside, leaning against a car, arms crossed, eyes burning holes through the window. I was going to call, he said quickly, guilt flashing across his face. Who's that? I asked before I could stop myself. His jaw clenched. Lily's mother. The words hit like cold water. She came back. Sort of. She's trying to get custody. I blinked. Custody? Why? She found out I've been working side jobs. Cash work. She's saying it makes me unstable. His voice cracked slightly, raw and human. She's threatening court. Pieces started fitting together. The tension in his eyes, the phone calls, the quiet worry he carried like armor. Why didn't you tell me? I asked softly. He looked down. Because we barely know each other. And because I didn't want you looking at me like that. Like what? I whispered. Like one of your father's charity cases, he said. You're from a world that buys its way out of trouble. I can't compete with that. His words stung more because they weren't wrong. Michael, you don't even know me, I said, but he shook his head. I know your kind of life, Sarah. And people like you don't stay. The silence between us stretched painfully. Then Lily ran in, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate, smiling at both of us like the world was still simple. Daddy, can we go to the swings? His face softened instantly. Sure, sweetheart. He looked back at me, eyes guarded. Goodbye, Sarah. And just like that he walked away, leaving me with the echo of his footsteps and a bitter taste that wasn't from the coffee. 2 weeks passed. I told myself to forget him. I told myself he'd made his choice. But every time I closed my eyes I saw that look, half hurt, half fear, the kind that came from a man who'd had too much taken from him. My father's words didn't help. People like him take what they can, Sarah. You're vulnerable. Don't be foolish. I nodded because it was easier than arguing, but deep inside I was tired of letting fear, image, and my father's pride decide who I could care about. The wheelchair wasn't the prison. The expectations were. So I did what I wasn't supposed to do. I found him. The cafe owner told me Michael was working at a renovation site near the old community center. It was raining that day, but I didn't care. I rolled across puddled sidewalks until I saw him under the scaffold, soaked in work clothes, lifting wooden beams like they weighed nothing. When he looked up and saw me, shock froze his face. Sarah? What are you doing here? You were wrong, I said, heart pounding. About me. About us. His brow furrowed. What are you talking about? I don't care about your bank account or what jobs you've taken. I don't care what my father thinks. You stood beside me when everyone else stared. You made me feel seen again. He stepped closer, rain dripping from his hair. You make it sound easy. Not for people worth keeping, I said. His lips twitched, a ghost of a smile. You really shouldn't be here. Too late, I replied. We stood there, rain falling, silence stretching until it wasn't awkward anymore. It was something alive. Then he exhaled, shoulders softening. I don't know where this goes, Sarah, he said quietly. But I want to find out. Then don't walk away this time, I whispered. He reached out, his hand rough, warm, anchoring mine. Somewhere behind him, Lily's voice echoed through the doorway. Daddy. Are you coming? He looked back, then at me, eyes soft. Come on, he said. Let's go somewhere warm. Maybe share another cake. And for the first time, I didn't feel like someone to be pitied. I felt like someone finally choosing to live again. Days passed without a word from Michael. I told myself it didn't matter. We'd shared cake and laughter, that was all. But as Chicago's November chill deepened, so did the quiet. Each day I caught myself glancing at my phone, wondering if he'd call, then hating myself for hoping. On the third afternoon I went downtown for coffee, a cafe I used to love before the accident. I was halfway through my latte when I heard his voice behind me. Sarah. I turned, pulse quickening. He stood there, rein on his shoulders, looking tired but still impossibly steady. Relief flooded me, until I noticed the woman waiting outside, leaning against a car, arms crossed, eyes burning holes through the window. I was going to call, he said quickly, guilt flashing across his face. Who's that? I asked before I could stop myself. His jaw clenched. Lily's mother. The words hit like cold water. She came back. Sort of. She's trying to get custody. I blinked. Custody? Why? She found out I've been working side jobs. Cash work. She's saying it makes me unstable. His voice cracked slightly, raw and human. She's threatening court. Pieces started fitting together. The tension in his eyes, the phone calls, the quiet worry he carried like armor. Why didn't you tell me? I asked softly. He looked down. Because we barely know each other. And because I didn't want you looking at me like that. Like what? I whispered. Like one of your father's charity cases, he said. You're from a world that buys its way out of trouble. I can't compete with that. His words stung more because they weren't wrong. Michael, you don't even know me, I said, but he shook his head. I know your kind of life, Sarah. And people like you don't stay. The silence between us stretched painfully. Then Lily ran in, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate, smiling at both of us like the world was still simple. Daddy, can we go to the swings? His face softened instantly. Sure, sweetheart. He looked back at me, eyes guarded. Goodbye, Sarah. And just like that he walked away, leaving me with the echo of his footsteps and a bitter taste that wasn't from the coffee. The following weeks unfolded like pages I never thought I'd get to read. Michael and I met in quiet corners of the city, coffee shops, parks, construction sites where life was being rebuilt from the ground up. Lily would draw pictures of ducks and birthday cakes and hand them to me like gifts meant to heal old wounds. My father, of course, disapproved. You're making yourself a headline, he warned. The press will turn this into a pity story. I'd once obeyed those words out of fear, but now they only made me tired. Maybe they should, I told him. Maybe it's time they see the truth instead of the image. The truth was simpler. I was happy for the first time in years. Not perfect, not whole, but alive. One evening, Michael invited me to the community center's reopening. The same building he'd rebuilt, piece by piece with his own hands. The place was full of laughter, the smell of new paint and fresh hope. Lily tugged at my sleeve, pointing toward a table covered in cupcakes. We saved you one, she whispered proudly. When I turned, I found Michael watching me. You made this happen, I told him. He shook his head. You did, Sarah. You showed up. The words sank deep. For so long I'd believed my worth was tied to what I could no longer do. But here, surrounded by light and noise and the people who saw me, not my chair, not my family's name, I felt something I hadn't in a long time, belonging. Later, as the night thinned and Lily fell asleep in her father's arms, Michael walked me outside. The city hummed quietly, soft rain misting the air. You know, he said, I used to think life stopped after loss. I looked up at him. And now I think maybe that's when it really starts. When you find someone who understands what it means to begin again. I smiled, the sound of distant thunder mixing with my heartbeat. Then let's begin, I whispered. He leaned closer, his hand finding mine. No grand promises, just the quiet certainty of 2 broken souls choosing each other in the rain. Chicago glowed that evening, the lake reflecting the last gold of summer. I turned 32, surrounded by laughter, candles, and 2 people who had changed everything. Lily insisted we share the cake again, just like before. Michael teased her about making too many wishes. When the candles flickered, I made mine anyway. Not for healing, not for walking again, but for keeping the courage to love despite the scars. This time when the flames went out, I wasn't alone. This is my story of triumph. Do you think I handled it correctly? If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Share your thoughts in the comments. I can't wait to hear your perspective. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to Memorable Stories and Overcoming, where we share inspiring stories of triumph and justice every single day.